Hey, Wacky Teacherpreneurs. Jess and I are sitting in our houses, but it looks like we are in Boston because the Teachers Pay Teachers conference this year, 2023, is in Boston. And this episode is all about whether or not Jess and I think that going to a conference hosted by Teachers Pay Teachers is worth it. We've both been to many of the Teachers Pay Teachers conferences. And so, yeah, we're going to give you some details about our experiences at those various conferences and some takeaways that we had attending these conferences. So we can't wait to start this episode. Okay, Jess, so you actually have a really unique experience because I'm pretty sure you went to the first ever Teachers Pay Teachers conference, right?
No, I went to the second ever. The first two were in Las Vegas. And so the very first one was the summer I started my TpT store. And so I was going to the forums and everybody in the forums were talking about the conference. Did you go to the conference? Are you going to the conference? And I was like, what is this about? I had just opened my TpT store May 2014. So nine years ago, I had opened up the store and everybody was talking about it. So that I said to myself, if this TpT thing works out, you're going to go next year. And of course I had like a really amazing summer. Like I instantly started making money. You know how some people are like, oh gosh, I worked and worked for like a year before I could even make $100. I mean, I instantly started making money out of the gate. My first month was like $20. My next month was 400, and then it just went up and up and up and up from there. So I thought, I love this Teachers Pay Teacher stuff. I'm going next year. So I went to number 2, which was also in Las Vegas. Now I did live in northern Las Vegas, or north. I live in North Las Vegas now, but I used to live in northern Nevada. So it was like a 7-hour drive, but it was a nice, we decided to do like a summer vacation with my husband and my stepdaughter. And we're like, I'm going to go to this conference, but I don't know what it's going to be like. I'm really nervous because it feels really intense because I read everything that had happened the first year. And so I was really, really nervous. It was before I started social media. And I went the summer of 2015 to TpT conference number 2. And I drove with my family. And that was probably the first regret, because when you go to the conference, you start to meet people and then you hear about all these meetups and people invite you to coffee and dinner and lunch, and you just don't realize how much time it's going to take up. And it is really hard going with family members if you want to just focus on business. And you might have something to say about that because I know that you went with your husband this last summer. So you might have a different perspective. But I started with going with my family. And then I was like, okay, it kind of needs to be a me thing, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs need. I think they need that me compartment in their lives. And I think that's what entrepreneurism does for some people. So anyway, I did have a great time, but I was so scared to be there as I have social anxiety that I hid in the bathroom my first session. I just hid in a bathroom. I didn't even go. So it was so big and overwhelming. And it was in the Venetian, which is a really big hotel resort in Las Vegas. And, I was from a tiny town, like 2,000 people. And it was before I was on social media. I think I might have even had a different Teachers Pay Teachers store name. I think I went by the Word Girl back then. It was probably pre-Whimsical Teacher. It might have been right around the time I switched my name, because I found out the Word Girl was trademarked and I had to change it. But anyway, yeah, so I went, and the first person I met, I went to the second session. I decided to leave the bathroom finally. The weirdest thing for me is I just went in normal like summer clothes, right? Like I just wore a t-shirt and some jean shorts or whatever. And then all the people there, which were 90% women, were all dressed really fancy. They were all dressed in like really pretty dresses, fancy bags. I mean, these people were rich. And I was like, whoo, I mean, I made enough money to go to this thing, but I just felt like such a like
Oh,
hokey pokey slob kind of. And that was one reason I was in the bathroom, because I was just like, oh, I don't think I dressed right. And people are going to be judging me. And I mean, I really didn't think it was going to be this big, like, rodeo drive event, but it kind of is. People take it really seriously. So that's what I wish I would have known. But the first person I met, so I would go to my second session. So I missed the first one. First person I sit by, Susan Lopez. Susan Lopez is amazing. I think her store is called Lopez Land Learners. And now we're like conference buddies. We've probably been to 5 conferences together, a few other teacher parties together. I mean, we're Facebook friends. We've talked on Marco Polo and Voxer. I mean, I consider her one of my buddies, and she's like the very first person I met. And I was so shy, and she was like trying desperately to like talk to me and like get me to talk to people and stuff. And so, yeah, anyway, it was a really good experience. And then at that conference, I learned about some social media apps, or like why people should use social media. So I tried it that summer, and my social media account started growing really fast. But if I hadn't gone to the conference, I wouldn't have joined social media. So that is my first experience. Now I know you went the next year, because we went together, because we met that summer after I went to the conference. I think it's probably when me and you met, because I was like, oh, I should join social media and talk to people. Cool. Okay, I'll get on that. I had no idea. I did not think social media was ever going to be a part of my teacher's business. So anyway, but yeah, we met that summer and became friends over the next year and did a bunch of stuff. And then the third conference, we went to Orlando, Florida, and we were roommates. You said we got in fights, but I don't remember. I do remember one short squabble, but I don't remember it lasting like the whole time. I remember us having fun, but I do remember you being really tired, and you were always sleeping. You were sleeping, like we took a little bus to the resort. You were sleeping on the bus, and I have all these pictures on my phone of you sleeping. And I wrote on social media, Amanda's always sleeping. Amanda won't quit sleeping. You were constantly taking naps. So yeah, and that's what I remember of that trip.
I don't remember sleeping I think it was
Oh,
because
I
I
have
was
photo
jet lagged.
evidence of you sleeping.
I think it was because I was jet lagged, and I was so excited because it was my first conference. And was it the first time we met in person, or we met in
No,
person?
we had met before that. Yeah.
Okay.
We I think we met at the teacher California meetup before that. So we met in February in real life at the teacher meetup in Old Town, Sacramento. I don't know if you
Yes.
remember that one, but yeah, we met there. I think the first time we actually met the day before, or that morning, we went to coffee. It was on one of my cameras somewhere. I have these pictures of us, because we were doing our teacherpreneur.info, and we tried to take like pictures of ourselves for the website and stuff. Oh, it
Oh,
was
I
really
want to
funny.
see those.
I know I can't find them, but I remember I took them on like a big fancy SLR camera that I had.
I
And
remember that.
they're around somewhere on some memory chip. There's these pictures of us.
And I met whimsical hubby. Yeah, I think that's why I was sleeping so much, because I was jet lagged because it was in Orlando, and Orlando's on East Coast time, right?
Well,
Um,
this was like the second or third day you were sleeping a lot. So maybe we were just staying up really late at night. I don't know. Maybe we were. I don't remember.
yeah, I don't either. Because you say you have social anxiety, and recently I've talked about this over and over again, discovered and was diagnosed with ADHD. And a component of ADHD is rejection sensitivity dysphoria, RSD. And so at the time I didn't know that I, had that, but now, yeah. So even though I'm an extrovert and I love talking, I'm not really an extrovert. I don't know what it's called, an ambivert, when you're both. I mean, you really like people and you like talking a lot, but it's also very draining. And so yeah, because it's, masking, and like you were talking about people wearing fancy clothes, and looking all like put together and you know, and that's not necessarily the easiest thing for me. And it sounds like it's not for you either. And I think that's why we really were attracted to each other, because we were kind of in our own ways outcasts. And I think that is one of the hard parts about the Teachers Pay Teachers conference. Is yeah, it's kind of nerve-wracking, especially if you don't know anyone and there is sort of clique culture in the Teachers Pay Teachers subculture. You know, like I feel like we are kind of our own subculture. And that can be really, really hard. Just constantly, you know, like I think a lot of Teachers Pay Teachers sellers have heard the terms like big fish and little fish, and like the famous teacher authors, teacherpreneurs versus the no-name teacherpreneurs. And yeah, so I mean that definitely exists, and but maybe in our heads, I don't know, maybe some people aren't as challenged by that like clique culture, but that definitely impacts me because, you know, I have a history of being shunned and bullied by peers. And so I think, you know, we're trying to answer the question, like, is it worth it to go to the Teachers Pay Teachers conference? And we haven't even talked about like some of the things we learned from the conference. And honestly, when I think back on Orlando, I don't remember anything that I learned. I think mostly I was overwhelmed and just had decision fatigue. Like, oh, there's like 100 things I should be doing. Which one is the one that I should focus on? And like that was really challenging too. But my memories of Orlando were so wonderful because I got to spend time with other teacherpreneurs. And there's not, you know, I don't know any teacherpreneurs like in person. That I know all of my friends are online. And so to spend time with like people who are like you, to me, that made it worth it. Um, what do you think?
Well, I always learn a lot, but I do love going to conferences and I love taking classes and I love learning new things. So like the first one kind of, well, I guess my advice to people listening to this, if you haven't been, you got to go at least once to
Yeah.
see, you know, what you're missing out on, because there's certain things like you just don't know until someone tells you. Like I remember the very first lesson, the very first one I went to, they were talking about that trifecta of selling products on Teachers Pay Teachers. I didn't know there was a trifecta, right? And they were talking about how the way most people go about it, right, is they create a product and that's one corner of your triangle. And then you need to find a way to now market it. And so like this one trifecta they were talking about is like one way you could go about it is you make a product, then you blog about it. You take pictures of it in action, you talk about it on your blog, and then you put blog posts up on the various social medias. Pinterest was like the main one at the time, right? But then you put your blog post, you keep sharing it out. I didn't know that's how it worked. I mean, I had been on Teachers Pay Teachers for a year and I had no idea. I knew I was making money, and I had a blog, but I never blogged about my products. It just seemed, it was like mind blowing. And that was my very first hour at the TpT conference hearing about this. I was like, so like, you don't know what you don't know, right? Like, nobody could have prepared me for that lesson. Even if I was Googling like how to sell products, I guess it meant more being in a room with someone who was like, listen, I made $1 million last year and this is how I did it. And it was like, what? And then they're showing you examples. They're like, here's my blog, here's my Pinterest, here's a product I made. Dude. Now let's look at how much money I made off of doing this. And you're just like, it really opens your eyes to new business ideas. But now, as a seasoned veteran of Teachers Pay Teachers, it's my 9th year having a TpT store. I love that you have a surprise guest. She was there and then she disappeared. I think that was great. So anyway, I kind of I lost my train of thought, but you
Well,
get what I'm saying. You don't know what you don't know. You
yes.
have to go to experience it. But after 9 years and 5 teachers conferences, I feel like I'm starting to hear the same thing over and over again. And I'm sort of like, okay, it's not like I'm just going for camaraderie. I'm just going for friendships at this point. And I'm not really learning new things. Like I learn a few new things each year, but like there's so many things out there. Like I already know what I need to do. I need to make more products and develop more product lines and have more expensive product lines. I already know. And so then it's sort of like, you know, like what do they say? It's just like, you're beating something over and over and over again. Like what do they say? Beating a dead horse. That's a horrible saying, by the way. I don't like it, but that's what it feels like after a while. You're just like, oh yeah, I know. So anyway, I would suggest going at least once to see if you could learn anything new to grow your business, but then don't feel the pressure to keep going back year after year after year if you're not really learning those big aha moments and you're not growing your business. If you're just going for socialization, I mean, maybe that's good for you, especially if you're a full-time entrepreneur. But for me, I had a choice of going on these international trips every year as a tour guide, as a leader on these trips, or doing Teachers Pay Teachers conferences. My trips overlap the conference every year. Obviously, I'm going to choose being a trip leader for international trips, right? Or spending time with my family, going on vacations with them. I'm now choosing that over the Teachers Pay Teachers conference. So that's my 2 cents. Do you have any thoughts?
Well, yeah, I think sometimes when we go to these conferences, and you're right, like there is so much information that you learn, like a lot. It's like I said, the best word I can use to describe it is overwhelming, because one person will say, I made $1 million and this is how I did it. And then another person will say, I grew my social media to, I don't know, 20K or whatever, and this is what I did, and now I made this much. And it's like, okay, well, which of those things do I do? And I don't know. And I filled notebooks full of notes because I love school too, and learning new things, but learning is not action taking, and like, and that I feel like whenever I go to conferences, I feel like by the end of it, I'm just exhausted, and like I didn't even take any action. And so then I feel defeated, like, oh, I'm glad I learned all of this, but man, like, what do I do now? And I think there were like some conferences that I went to, like, so I went to Orlando, Anaheim, and Chicago, and I feel like I went to another one, but I can't.
Did you go
It's
to
like,
Nashville?
yes, Nashville. Yes. And yeah, every single time I learned so much, but like coming home and like putting things into action and implementing was always the most challenging part, for me at least. And knowing what to focus on. But I think it was always worth it to spend time with friends and to get to know people like in person. And there, like a lot has come from that. Like I've joined collaborative blogging groups where we all share our take on a topic, and then we publish it on one person's blog, and then the next week we're on another person's blog. And so just, that SEO, like that's really powerful. Like I get a lot of traffic, from building book love, or Write On with Miss G, because I was part of a collaborative blogging group with them for a year or so. And just being able to meet them in person, and then to start establishing these ways that we're intersecting our businesses, and they're like in the same niche as me, so being able to like connect with other teachers who are in the same niche and collaborating with them, and growing your businesses kind of and presence together is so powerful, and really, I think what makes going to these conferences worth it. But at the same time, it's really scary when you don't know anyone, like to be able to start to break out of your comfort zone and get out of the bathroom and and say hi to someone.
Yeah, I remember sitting in that bathroom too, and I was just like, I remember so many high heels, like clop, 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 because everyone's dressing really fancy, like they're going to weddings or something, which is a little bizarre. I get it now because they end up taking a lot of pictures at these conferences. Like they take a lot of pictures of people, and like I'm even on like the Teachers Pay Teachers corporate wall has a collage of all of the Teachers Pay Teachers conferences, and people go to the TpT corporate offices and they take pictures of me on the wall.
Oh my
And like
gosh.
one of my pictures, I have like a t-shirt on with R2D2 on it, and I'm just like, oh gosh, like that is memorialized forever on this wall.
Wow. Yeah. That's kind of scary because what if they catch you making a weird face and then
Yeah, like it's like my big arm is like dangling out and R2D2's on my shirt. And it's, yeah. But anyway, I get why people dress up. But for me, it was really intimidating. But then I learned so much my first hour, and then I walked away basically like, okay, I'm going to try social media. And now I've grown a giant, social media following. I mean, I say giant, like just because it makes me feel better. It's really not giant.
yeah, it is. I think
It's
it is.
really not giant, but like I did get really involved on different platforms and just trying it out and pushing myself to the next level. Like first leaving the bathroom, then talking to Susan Lopez, then going to some more meetups, then starting all the social media accounts and just trying things out. It did launch me to the next level, and it opened the door for like a lot of really exciting experiences. Like for instance, I would not have gotten this travel gig where I'm a trip leader. Every summer, I travel with a group of 20 teachers to a new country. I've been to England, New Zealand, and Egypt, and this summer I'm going to Greece. I wouldn't have gone on those trips without pushing myself to start my social media accounts. Like that wouldn't have happened. My social media led to that opportunity, and Teachers Pay Teachers pushed me towards social media. So I've had a lot of really cool experiences. That's why I think people should give it a shot, see if anything resonates with them. Yeah, you're going to get overwhelmed, but then maybe just pick out one little thing from the conference that you liked, give it a try. Whether for me, it was social media. I was like, I'm going to try it. Even though I have social anxiety, I'm behind my phone. Nobody can really see me. I'll just pretend like I'm talking to my best friend. That's always my number one tip for people who are like, I hate posting on social media. I'm like, just pretend like you're calling your best friend and telling them about your day. Like, how do you react when you're talking to your BFF on the phone or in real life? What does your face look like? How do you respond to them? What words do you say? That's how you need to talk to social media, like the other side of the camera. So anyway, but I wouldn't have done any of that without Teachers Pay Teachers Conference. So I do recommend going once or twice, but then and just understand what it's going to be like. You're going to be around a lot of very rich, rich, rich ladies who aren't afraid to show you how rich they are.
Oh my
They
goodness.
wear a lot of
Not everyone. Not
fancy dress. Well, no, but you're going to be around a lot of them. Like it's a little shocking, like if you're not really used to that, it could be like, oh, and you should know what to expect. But then like if you're expecting that, and then you can get over that and realize that 98% of them are really sweet, warm, want to talk to you, want to start conversations with you, want to hear about your business or answer questions you might have. If you know that part of it, it makes it a lot easier to go to that kind of situation. But like my social anxiety mind was just like, hide me now, I want out. And I almost called my husband to come and get me after I was sat in the bathroom for like an hour. But then I just pushed myself to go to that very first thing because I really just did not know what to expect. I just didn't know. So anyway, I'm happy I went. Now I'm a veteran. I got this 5-year pin once I went. They gave me like a 5-year, like you've been to 5 conferences. Here's a pin. So now I'm like a junkie. All these people recognize me. They remember me. They remember past conferences. And who would have thought that that girl hiding in the bathroom, being a weirdo, being like, oh my gosh, why is everyone wearing high heels here? Who would have thought that I would, go on that summer to build a good social media platform. I've literally met hundreds and hundreds of people through these conferences in real life, even. And I have real life friends now because of it. So I don't know. I think it's worth it. I had a good experience, but at the same time, 9 years in, I'm choosing different things for myself, like to spend my money on.
Yeah, so neither one of us are choosing to go to the Boston conference, but are you gonna do the virtual? Because now they've just started offering the virtual option, and we've both had experience with that, and I definitely didn't like it as much. Yes, there was a lot of great information, but like sitting in front of a computer listening to it was kind of hard for me because I just would, I don't know. I can't pay attention, focus very well when I'm just like sitting in front of a computer listening to someone talk, you know?
You mean like right now?
Well, no, we're in conversation. These
I know. I'm
these
just kidding.
virtual sessions were just like talking at you, just like sharing all this information. And yeah, so I have to like, in order to pay attention, I have to take notes, like in order to like truly like retain what they're saying, or else I'm just gonna get up and go do something. But yeah, what was your experience with the virtual
I liked it, but I am a weirdo. And since I have social anxiety, I just prefer to do things online. Like, everyone was like, I hated teaching during COVID. It was so awful having to teach from home from a computer all day. It was the time of my life. I was the best teacher that I've ever been during COVID. I had the best relationships with my students, parents. I got all my work done. I had so much energy. Like when kids are being naughty, mute. Sorry, you're muted. Bye. Mute. So I mean for me, but I was teaching fourth grade that year and middle school. So I love online learning and I love going online stuff, just doing things at my own pace, being in my pajamas, drinking my coffee at home, not having to get all dressed up and having to socialize all day long. Obviously, I've come away with more going and pushing myself outside, but I just accept it. I am who I am. I have social anxiety and I thrive without being social. So if I thrive through a computer screen, then I need to embrace that more. So I will go. I won't go this year. I did go not last year, but the year before. And the only reason I haven't gone the last 2 years is last year I was in Egypt during like the windows. They do give you a window. It's not like limitless time you have to watch. It's not like you sign up for the conference and they give you a year to finish the videos. You have a window to watch the videos. So like I said, I went the year of COVID. I don't know if that was like, maybe it was 2020 or 2021. Maybe I went both years. I don't really remember, but I know I went and watched a lot of them. And I like I said, I was thriving during COVID where most people were having the worst time of their life. It was the best time of my life. I'm like, I get to stay at home all day long and not talk to anyone. This rocks. I had some of the best years. I feel so guilty saying that because most
no,
people
don't.
like had horrible time, but for me, everything about it was great. The conferences, the teaching, staying at home, everyone just accepting that we had to do business on Zoom. I loved it. So anyway, I liked it. I came away with a lot, but I mean, obviously, like you're not really growing any friendships when you're hiding out behind a Zoom camera. I mean, it's bad for my social anxiety to do that kind of keep choosing that kind of option, because like if I push myself a little bit, then I gain confidence when I overcome my social anxiety. You know what I mean? But then like it feels more comfortable to just sit at home. So this summer I'm not going to do it because I did it for 2 summers. I didn't do it last year as I was in Egypt. This summer I'm going to Greece and I'm doing a little Euro vacation before Greece. And so I don't have time and I'm going to be traveling for like 3.5 weeks. And that's going to be where I put my effort, for everything for this summer. That's where I'm focusing my attention. And also, I've been to 9 of them. I've been to 7 of them if you include the 2 I went to online. So I've been to 7 of these conferences. And like I feel like I kind of know what's coming, even though every year there's a little something, a little tidbit that surprises me or that I learn from. Like last year when you went, you taught me a lot. When you came back from it, you taught me a lot about podcasting and what some of your buddies are doing with that, and some sessions you went to. Like you shared a lot of the info with me last year. So that's what I find that I have enough friends now that go to the conferences that will share everything they learn with me. So I guess it's kind of like lazy of me. Like, oh yeah, I'm never going to go to that again. I got plenty of friends that'll tell me stuff. But I mean, that's one thing the conference can do for you, is you can meet Teachers Pay Teachers friends. And I think it's important to have at least a couple in your back pocket, for that part of your life.
Yeah, for sure. I actually, do you know the butterfly teacher, Tanya?
Yes, and I love her. I
I do
loved her
too.
session.
So
I think I watched it 2 years in a row, but I love her.
she was the keynote speaker at the conference in Chicago, and that was the best part. Her talk was the best part. Like, just saying that right now, it gave me goosebumps, because she did talk about feeling like an outsider and like she didn't belong, and just really giving people inspiration to, like what you were just doing, to go out of their comfort zone and to really network and realize that you do belong, and I just, she's so wonderful. And like, she's on YouTube, and I've watched some of her YouTube videos and commented, and she actually commented on one of my YouTube videos, and she's a big deal. Like, she's one of the famous, Teachers Pay Teachers sellers. And she's just the sweetest, most down-to-earth person. And yeah, so I think that when you go to conferences, but sometimes you can be disappointed in some of the famous teacher authors. Some of them,
Some
I have
people,
tried to
can I
go
be
up to
honest
them
with
and
you,
get to
that
know them.
some people have written me and said they were disappointed in me.
What? Well, because
Yeah.
it's hard to be like, quote unquote, kind of famous. It's like awkward. Like when someone comes up to you and they're like, I love you. And you're like, oh, thank you. Like, what do you say next? I don't know.
Yeah. For me, one thing I don't think people know is, I've posted stories for years on Instagram, used to do a bunch of other social medias, but sometimes I film a story like 20 times to get it right.
Oh my gosh.
I don't just film myself and like doy post. I mean, I'm like sitting there, like experimenting with angles, lighting, and sometimes I do like a whole like 2-3 minute video, and then I chop it up into little pieces. And I edit myself constantly. And so, like, meeting me in real life, you're not going to see me. Like, I remember one time I met this woman, and she was like, I knew she was very disappointed in me, because she came and asked me a question, and I slumped over in my chair, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm so hungry for lunch right now. I think my blood sugar's low. And I was just like slumped over. Like, I was really feeling sick and out of it. And she just got so mad that I didn't, she thought we had this relationship online, and she unfollowed me, and I could just feel like her hatred for me come from like a million miles away. And it's just like, people don't realize that, like, when you're putting things out on social media or even your blog, I mean, everything is edited, but in real life, you can't edit yourself. Real life editing is different. So I feel it's kind of a weird catch-22 for me, because I've met some people that I really admired and respected online, like their online presence or like their Teachers Pay Teachers stores. I met them in real life, and I was just like, oh, that was awkward. And they were kind of yucky. And I was like, I try to remind myself, I'm like, you know what? you've been yucky to people too. So, I mean, I try not to put too much on that. Sometimes people can really turn you off. And maybe that's just a sign that those aren't really your people. That's how I took it personally, is like, some of these people, like I've had some really mean things happen at these conferences. And that's it. That's all I had to say about that, is like the door swings both ways though. Like you can't always be on, and you can't edit yourself in real life, but you are going to be disappointed by some people. Like if you're really, really looking forward like to seeing a certain person, or maybe someone you see as like your mentor, they might not respond to you the way you're thinking, because it's real life, you know?
Yeah. Thanks for that, for just sharing that was kind of, I don't know, very authentic of you to share such a kind of story where you're kind of on the other side disappointing one of your
Well,
fans.
it's happened a lot. Like I've had a lot of people, like the instant they meet me, is I used to have this app that would tell me when people would unfollow me, and I don't have it anymore. It actually stopped working. But like I would get a notification like so and so unfollowed you. And there was a couple times that I met someone in real life, within 5 minutes I'd get that they unfollowed me. So it was just like instant rejection, right? Like instant rejection. I know I was thinking, oh, I don't think that person liked me very much. And then instantly I knew I was right. They didn't like me. So it is a weird thing to go through. And there's still a few people that I'm like cordial with, but I know when we met in real life, like I was not on my best, like I was not being my best self really, like because I don't travel well, and social anxiety, and I can just be kind of a weirdo. I guess I give people weird looks all the time. I don't know. I got a weird expressive face, And so people take the littlest things. And I had this one person wrote me, and she's like, gosh, for the last 3 years, I've been scared to write you, because one time we were in an elevator in Teachers Pay Teachers conference, and you like someone said something about me, and you rolled your eyes when they were talking about me. And I knew you were making fun of me behind my back. And I was like, dude, I don't even remember that at all. Like, I've never made fun of you. Like, you're not even on my, like, this person was not on my radar. Like, I knew who she was, but there wasn't any reason for me to like make fun of her or have a weird look on my face. Like, it must have been something else, but she interpreted it as I was making fun of her in this elevator. And I tried to explain to her, like, I really like you. There's no reason I would make fun of you. Like, I feel camaraderie with you. These are all the reasons I like you over the years. And she was like, wow, I've actually talked to my therapist before about you giving me this dirty look in this elevator. Right. And I'm like, whoa. So sometimes stuff like that, I'm like I do have to be more careful about that when I'm in public, like I've definitely learned a lot about myself, and instead of like crawling back into my hole, like that's what I feel like doing when people tell me that, like, oh great, that's what you fear when you have social anxiety, that everyone's going to misinterpret you all the time. And then it actually happens. It does happen, but it is just kind of a part of life, and like putting yourself out there and taking risks. So I kind of like, that's my internal battle all the time. Do you ever feel that? Do you ever feel you have an internal battle with yourself?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Every single day. Yeah. I feel an internal battle. Um, and yeah, it's mainly like, what do I prioritize? That's always my battle, is like, what's important, what's most important? Because to me, everything is important. And um, yeah, and I just get really into various things, and it's too much, and I'm usually in over my head. But I do think, yeah, there is like a lot of teacher pay teacher sellers want to become a big fish or a big deal, or quote unquote famous in the teacher pay teacher seller world. But there's costs to that, and do you really want that? And honestly, to me, I don't. Like, no thank you. I just feel like because people are going to be like scrutinizing your every move, like what you're describing. And I would just rather be a nobody and not have to worry about that, and just kind of do my own thing over on the side. And that's kind of what I've learned in the last decade is, for many, many years, I did want to be a big deal. I did want to be someone that was known and who does amazing things, and others talk about like, wow, she's so amazing. But chasing that is just, it's like I think the wrong way to go about doing business, like we ended our last episode in that way where, really, you do have to find your why, why am I doing this? And I feel like that's part of the reason I stepped away from like Instagram, and Facebook, and doing like live videos and reels and everything, because part of my why was like, well, I want to have a big following. Like I want a lot of people to be exposed to what I have to offer. But that, I don't know, like chasing numbers and followers, it just, I feel like it just leads to more stress and anxiety. Whereas chasing a more like, I don't know if it's necessarily chasing, like I'm done chasing. Like I don't want to chase anything anymore. I'd rather just do what I love and hopefully help people with what I do. You know what I mean? Like, and just be a source of kindness, and acceptance to the people in my community and the people that like are in my world. And I do have followers, and I have people who listen to my podcast and read my blog posts and everything, and just coming from a place of helping rather than I want to grow.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
But we're totally going on a tangent. The Teachers Pay Teachers conference, I feel like you can really get caught up in like growing and that being the goal, and like making more money and getting more followers. And it's just kind of icky. Like when you do that year after year after year, it kind of hurts your mental health and even your physical health, especially if you're not like you're trying and trying and trying and not accomplishing what you are setting out to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it is such a catch-22 for me because, like if I hadn't gone, I wouldn't have started social media, and social media has opened a lot of doors for me. And I do get to do a lot of cool, fun things like my international trips every year. But at the same time, after 9 years, now 8 years on social media, I am a little burnt out on social media. Like I am kind of done with it. I haven't been posting hardly at all anymore, and I haven't been trying to grow at all. I'm just sort of done. And I don't know. I think it just kind of, the old saying, I hope it's okay if I swear, but like shit or get off the pot.
Mhm.
Have you ever heard like old people say that? I mean, I feel like that's like where I'm at. It's like, you know what you need to do if you really want to make more money, you need to make, you know what you need to do. You need to do more bundles and more products and spend more of your time creating things to sell instead of just like all the other fluff around it. And I do think that's something that Teachers Pay Teachers conference, like when you go to it, you do get very sidetracked. You can get very distracted. So like, whereas social media opened a lot of cool doors for me, it doesn't last forever, and it's a lot of energy to keep up on, a lot of energy. And sometimes you just don't want to expel that energy towards that. Sometimes I do wonder if I had never gone, I probably would have just kept making tons and tons of products. I'd probably be a lot richer than I am now.
Uh-oh. So now you're not recommending going to the conferences.
I think so for me, I had, I was a beginner. It was like my first couple of years, and I had a couple hundred products, and I think it was good. I think it was good for me to go and understand what I could do with it. But it did kind of disorient me because I saw like a lot of my products I started feeling weren't good enough. I came home, deleted like 90 products. So I
Wow.
just felt like after the conference, they weren't good enough. They weren't what I should be putting out because they really put this thing on you like you can only create high quality resources that have all of these 25 components in each one, and it's so hard to do that. Like it's really difficult, and I just decided that some of my stuff was junk and I got rid of it. Had entire product lines I just came and deleted. And so looking back on it, like I do wonder, like if I had never gone, I would have missed out on a lot of fun times and a lot of great friendships and a lot of not so great friendships. And I wouldn't have my social media. I probably never would have started international traveling because that's what put the bee in my bonnet with for international traveling. It all started from the Teachers Pay Teachers conference because I started following people I had met there, and then those people were talking about this book bag tours place, and I bought my first trip, and and now I got to go to Egypt last year. I mean, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I didn't pay any money to go. I got to go to Egypt for free because of this journey that I started. But I do wonder, gosh, maybe if I had just stayed the course, not gotten so distracted with everything else, I could afford like 10 Egypt trips a year, right? Like if I was producing what I used to and not so distracted by other things. And that's the path I'm getting back on now. Like I'm sort of like, how can I get back to that place? Because now I feel like I rode the social media roller coaster. I've been up, I've been down, I've gone viral several different times for different things, and I just feel done with it. And now I kind of want to get back to basics. And I think it's just like important to have a goal and know what you want.
And
And
why you want it.
yeah, exactly.
Why?
Yeah.
I think the why is pretty important. And my why, I mean, my why has always been like, I love this stuff. This is fun. Like, I really like making things. I love writing. I love talking. And like, I think the magic is when you're doing something you love and you're helping people at the same time. And that's where I am right now. So I think to wrap up, go to the Teachers Pay Teachers conference if you really want to find your people and you want to meet people in person and network. And also learn, but be careful because you could get sidetracked. You could get very, very overwhelmed and burned out with everything you learn. So just, protect yourself at the same
Yeah.
time.
And
Uh,
I would also say, like, if you're a newer seller, like you're in your first couple years selling, got a new store, and you're not really making as much as you want to, but you're making enough that you could cover the trip, maybe it's a good time. Maybe it's a good time. If you're already really successful on Teachers Pay Teachers, like I always see people that are making several $1,000s a year, or they think they shouldn't go until they're making per month, rather, not per year, but they think that they shouldn't go until they're making enough to quit their jobs. It's not that. Like if you're making a part-time income and you're just like, how can I make a little bit more? I don't understand this blogging. I don't understand social media. I don't really understand these salesy gimmicks out there. You could learn a lot about those, but just understand that, you might get a little sidetracked. Like keep your eyes on the goal,
well,
right?
and also like, don't think you have to implement all of that. Like you don't have to be on social media and you don't have to have a blog to make money on Teachers Pay Teachers. There's plenty of people who just make products and publish them and that's it. And then they make money. I mean, that's how I was making money in my first few years. I wasn't doing social media. I wasn't blogging, and yet I was still making money. And that's what's so cool about Teachers Pay Teachers is a lot of the traffic. I mean, most of the sellers I know, the traffic is coming straight from Teachers Pay Teachers. Like there's just people getting on the platform and searching keywords, and then boop, there's your product and it's what someone needs. So like, yeah, go with the frame of mind that you don't have to implement any of this, and don't feel pressured to implement all of this stuff. and also don't believe that just because it made one person successful, it's going to make you successful. You're a different person, and just think about, what do you love doing? What is something that doesn't feel like work to you, and focus in on that, I think, is my biggest takeaway from this episode that I hope people.
I think we had a good one. I think we share a lot of great ideas, and hopefully it helps people make a decision. I know we went back and forth on it, but I think it's always good to hear multiple points of view before you make a major purchase. Like, I go and read all the Amazon reviews before I go and buy a product, or I download a book on Audible. I go and read the reviews about the book. And so I feel like this is a way bigger purchase than something on Amazon or Audible. Or TripAdvisor, right? So listen to multiple points of view, and you can even look up, you can go to Google and just type in, like, I went to Teachers Pay Teachers conference, and all these people, they'll have blog posts, YouTube videos, all kinds of things about going, and their tips, their tricks. They'll have like packing advice, what you should wear, what you should do while you're there. I mean, go to multiple sources, and definitely just keep in mind what you really want out of it. And I think if it's like more sales or camaraderie, you could get those things. But is it going to make you like a #1 Teachers Pay Teachers seller? Probably not. Like, are you going to be able to quit your job next year, or get on some talk show because of going to this conference? No, probably not. Drastically changed all your habits, but it can help you in some ways understand things. For me, it always demystifies some things that I wonder about. I'm always like, how did that work? Or how'd they do that? It tells you the backstory behind people's success. And that's inspiring to me. So that's what I like about it. I would say at least go to 1 or 2 of them. But like, if you can't afford this year in Boston, don't beat yourself up over it. Just wait for next year. It's always going to be there for you.
Well, we hope. Is IXL going to continue the conferences? I was curious because they took over. Have you
Yeah. So apparently IXL has taken over many other education businesses, and they have not really changed a lot. They've only improved those businesses. And so they've taken over a lot of different websites, a lot of online platforms, and they haven't just come and swooped in and changed everything. And so I think the hope is that they kind of keep things going the same.
Cool. Yeah. And then also, do you want to talk about the Saturday Night Live skit about before we end? Because we always seem to end in the same way. And I thought, I just really wanted you to tell everyone about that skit.
I remember it now, the Toodles.
Yeah.
Do you tell me, refresh my memory?
You said there was a skit about how making fun of white people.
Yeah, I don't.
You say toodles, which we are white women, and every time we end our episode, we say toodles.
It was like 3 or 4 weeks ago on Saturday Night Live. They had a skit where I don't know, it was some people were in the bathroom or something, and then like this white lady leaves the bathroom, was like, toodles, and they kind of like, oh gosh, those white ladies, they're the worst. It was really funny at the time. So my husband always says toodles. That's where I got it from. So let's blame him for this.
Let's blame white men. Okay, toodles.